You are listening to Nerd Best Friends, a podcast that covers the nerdy conversations you're already having, or wish you could. It's the nerdiest thing you'll do this week.
Welcome back to another episode of Nerd Best Friends. I am Annalise, and I'm here with my best friend, Rob.
Hey, it's me, Rob, your best friend, your super nerd, and your podcast host.
Listen to Nerd Best Friends across all popular podcasting platforms. Your support means the world to us, so be sure to click subscribe or follow on all your devices. If you're looking to take your support to the next level, consider joining us on Patreon or supporting through a one-time donation on Venmo. This is episode 53, and as we head towards the end of season 3 of Nerd Best Friends, we want to dig into our newest travel obsession, Barcades. But first, what I like about it.
Hey, Annalise!
Yo.
This episode, I want to talk about music, soundtracks to your games, specifically your RPGs. Well, really any game. I like to have music in the background while we're playing, and I like that music to be themed.
Heck yeah, absolutely.
Let's start with RPGs, right? Your Dungeons and Dragons is probably your biggest one there, but a lot of these will work for anything. I have, for any game, but they make it kind of easy on like Roll20 when we're doing our online games where there's a special like music tab that you can go to, and I will fill those up with different categories, right? Because you can make folders. So I've got a folder for action music. I've got a folder for travel music. I've got a folder for the different ambiances, whether it be a cave or a forest or a ocean or what it is. I've got all of those things laid out to just put a little background track, a little bed in there while we're playing. And I'll do the same thing for the in-person games as well. I use YouTube a lot for the in-person games because I can just kind of stream those on the fly, and I don't have to download things and make folders and stuff like I do on Roll20. Usually I'll just be like, oh, I've got a playlist for forest, click. Oh, I've got a playlist of battle music, click, something like that, and I can stream it. But there's a few places that I go routinely that I have found are the best. And one is Tabletop Audio. Tabletop Audio's website, it has so many resources for not only ambiance, but music, or music and ambiance. So it's like spooky forest. It'll be forest noises with just like a little bit of instrumentation in there to make it spooky, right? Oh, we're going to be in town. I just hit like town, and it'll just be ambiance of like wagon wheels and people kind of milling about talking in the streets, that kind of thing, to lay down those background things. There's literally hundreds of different combinations for whatever theme you're doing, and it's all for free. And what I like about it is on that particular site, they purposefully run them very long. So you might pick a song for your goblin battle, but that song is not, 2.5 minutes or 3. That soundtrack song is something like 9 minutes
20
or
minutes.
11 minutes. So that when it repeats, during your entire battle, you don't really notice it, right? It's not like a theme that is hammered 3 times in 3 minutes and then it just keeps going on for an hour and you're like, God, I'm sick of this music or anything like that, right? They make these scores very long purposefully so you don't notice the repeat. And another thing I like about Tabletop Audio is it's downloadable. It's very easy to import it into your Roll20 games or to put it as a folder in your drive for if you're doing your in-person games and running around with like your laptop or your iPad or something like that.
Yeah, that was my question. Cool. Like if Tabletop Audio is a place that you went and it just linked you to other places, but it sounds like it actually hosts the music you're talking about.
Yes, that's
awesome. It's
their company. And honestly, there's a few things behind the paywall, but you know me, I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and I get way more than I need.
I'm sure you get your money's worth.
I don't pay for that's what I'm saying. Like I don't pay for that one, which I would. I mean, they're great and I would happy to support them, but I've never come across the need to be like, oh man, I really need that song, but I can't get to it unless I pay the $6 a month or whatever it is. Like they're doing it right. Like that's a company that is like, we are providing a service for our fellow gamers. If you'd like to, we'd love to have your money, but I mean, I've been getting away with it for years, just using their free stuff, and shout out to them.
Right on. I was just gonna say, I do the same. I mean, I've never heard of tabletop audio, but I have used YouTube in particular when I got North Pole Nightmare for Final Girl, the Christmas special. I had trouble finding scary Christmas music on Apple Music, which is the platform I use.
Sure.
But YouTube had like an hour and a half of just scary Christmas music that I just put on my phone and put on the Bluetooth speaker, and boom, there I was playing North Pole Nightmare. So I bet they have even better stuff on tabletop audio. I'm gonna have to check it out.
I would check
music.
it out. I would check it out because you can save those things and make folders right in there. Oh, here's my Final Girl folder, and here's my Stranger Things. So they have they have a couple Stranger Things like legally distinct soundtracks.
Oh, sure,
like
sure,
the cool
sure.
song that they have that are super good. I've used them before in scary ones.
Also, the Stranger Things actual soundtracks of instrumental music you can get on like Apple Music or Spotify. They're really good too. Just side.
I do sometimes use soundtracks as well. So for instance, when we play Mythic Battles Pantheon, my favorite tabletop game of all time.
Right.
I've got a playlist that's a bunch of songs from like all the like Clash of the Titans movies and all those kinds of like from the new ones to the old ones, the like Greek myth style Hercules, whatever it might be, and those flow through, and that's pretty fun.
I keep interrupting you. You're trying to mention a couple more.
No, please. The next one I was going to mention was Travis Savoy. And this is a composer on YouTube who has specifically done soundtracks for the Dungeons and Dragons published adventures. So right Travis Savoy has a huge playlist for Curse of Strahd, for Waterdeep Dragon Heist. We're using the one for, what's the game we're playing? Rime of the Frost Maiden right now, where it's got a theme and it's got travel music and it's got the ice cave and it's got specific adventure things like the frozen harbor where you fight the plesiosaur. Like there was a specific track built for that of like action music with ocean in the background and stuff. So we've been using that behind the scenes in our game. That's really cool. I wish I had known about that when we were doing Curse of Strahd a couple years ago, because I was like you, like trying to find music that was okay, but this would have been really perfect. And Michael used it in his game, which was really cool. So I was jealous of him when I ran through it. It's like, oh, I wish I had known about that, but he told me about it for Rime of the Frostmaiden. And then another one that I wanted to mention that I thought was really fun was when we did our run through of Icespire Peak in our Saturday morning game.
Oh, right.
We had just decided that our little crew of adventurers was a traveling band, and we kind of had this rock band vibe.
Yes.
And so what our DM did, what Michael did, was he found these bardcore, like Renaissance versions of popular rock songs. So that
it was amazing.
So that when we went into battle, it was Master of Puppets with like a lute and a hand drum.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so good.
I would definitely recommend that. That's like a fun thing to do. Like, especially if you have a game that has a lot of whimsy in it, or like a one shot that's there for fun, being like, oh, here's the battle music. And it's this old medieval timey sounding versions, like covers of songs that everybody will recognize. Chef's kiss. Can't recommend it enough.
I'm going to shout out to Michael on that, because sometimes we got surprised into battle, but you'd know about it because he'd like simultaneously click with his text, with his exposition. He'd click on and be like, oh no, like he did really, really well using that
and
one song.
And that's when the door opens. It
was awesome. It was great. The music and the ambiance, like I really have appreciated the ambiance in games that you've run, where I want to say, especially in Morsane, when we'd go back to Morsane, there was just the town's ambiance in the background of just a regular little town doing regular things.
That one was a real special one. I really enjoyed that track. That was kind of our theme track. It was slow and mysterious, but unquestionably Western. That was from Tabletop Audio. Lonesome West is the title of that track on Tabletop Audio. And again, it is one of those ones. Let's see. Yeah, that's a 10-minute track. So as it would go through and it would repeat, because we'd be, hanging out or whatever, you didn't really notice it, that it was like start, stop, because it's just this huge sweeping score of sad music. And yes, I that one was a special one, probably because we played that game so much and it was so,
became like the theme. Yeah,
absolutely. To the point where when we took our Vegas trip for our finale, it was pretty cool to have that room filled with that song that, we're normally like, oh, we'll hear it kind of in the background on our earphones or whatever when we're playing the game. But to walk, like, again, that moment of like walking in and there was the table and all the terrain and like the map set up and the music was playing, it adds a lot. It really does.
It was great. I love it.
So I think music really enhances your gameplay for whatever game you're playing. I think there's a ton of resources out there that make it really easy with just amazing, talented people just publishing this audio for us. That's what I like about it.
Well, let's get to some nerd mail.
Nerd mail.
You know, Rob, listener Juliana had me in a little bit of a panic in a form of nerd mail, I'll say.
All right.
I am learning as a first-year principal, March and April, they're hard months. They're really, really hard months for lots of reasons. Don't need to get into it now, but I know I am focusing as much time as possible on this podcast as I can, but I also know that it comes in chunks. I have a chunk in a day. I'm going to edit the episode, do all the social media, and then nothing for 7 or 8 days. Then a chunk. And so I don't know. It's felt a little disjointed to me because I'm not just constantly like, oh, I'm going to edit a little bit today. Oh, I'm going to do this today. It's just work.
I got to sit down for 6 hours now and do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we get a text from our listener, past guest, Juliana, and she says, wait, 52? 50 to 52? What happened to episode 51?
Oh, no!
You made a joke about like, oh, I'm just the talent, whatever. I panicked. I'm like, oh my God. I must have skipped it because I'm always editing an episode ahead and behind. And then we're recording the next 2 episodes. Like, I was like, oh my God, I skipped 51 and we don't have an episode 51. And then I had to like go. I stopped what I was doing and I went into like Apple Podcasts and double checked. Oh no, there's an episode 51. Okay, I'm good. But I had a panic for a moment that I had skipped 51 numerically and that we just went 50, 52, 53.
What was your fear? Was your fear that you had mislabeled the numbers or that you had just forgot an episode?
No, that I mislabeled and we actually did not have an episode 51. That I went 50 to 52.
Because that's way more likely, like that you just typed the number in wrong, right? Like I can see myself doing that easy.
Yeah. Right. Because like we're recording 53. But I'm editing 52. No, I'm already getting myself confused because of the way we record on our schedule.
This is episode 53.
This is 53, yes. And 52 has been edited because we're recording this late.
You could listen to Nerd Best Friends once a week for a year, and you wouldn't have enough time to listen to all of the Nerd Best Friends.
It's amazing. Because we actually have more than 52 on our podcast because we did
some of those summer things and stuff are not numbered.
Oh, no, the summer ones are numbered, but it's the one shots. We have like 4 or so one shots from season 1, the little short episodes that we did. So we're actually like at 56, I think.
Gotcha. All right, cool.
I had a panic for a moment that my disjointed time of working the podcast made me just skip the number and mislabel everything. And I just had a panic, but I'm glad she's on it. And she brings up a good point. Some app captures or whatever people use to listen will just give you the newest episode. So if you go on vacation and don't listen for a week or 2 and come back and then you go to your app, it's going to give you the newest episode instead of what you missed. It depends on what app you use to listen to your podcasts.
Well, you definitely then want to be subscribed to the podcast. If you're
100%,
if you're counting on your Spotify or your Apple podcast app to just show it to you when it feels like it because it knows you like it. Don't do that. Also, we need the numbers.
Yes. Follow us now. Did you get any nerd mail, Rob?
I did. Actually, before we go into my nerd mail, I did want to say one thing because there was news at time of recording, maybe last week, that Google Podcast is being sunset. They're no longer going to have a Google Podcast app on your Android, Windows, or whatever phone that you have. What? That app is going away. So if you are currently using the Google Podcast app on those phones, I have some recommendations for you as well. I've used a couple different ones that I know are cross-platform. One is called Downcast, which I really enjoyed. And the other is called Overcast. Overcast is the one that I'm currently using now. I like it so much because of the way it does its speed up, slow down, like compression management that I actually paid for the subscription. I paid for the year's subscription ahead of time because it doesn't just do like a static 1.25 speed or 1.5 speed. It compresses it depending on what's going on. So I can set it to 1.2 speed, meaning while someone is talking, it'll be 1.2 1.2 speed, but if there's a silence, it'll just cut it all out. Or if there's music, it'll slow it back down to 1 so that the music doesn't sound funny or chipmunky. And you can watch it as you're listening to the podcast. You can watch the speed like adjust as it automatically detects what's going on to give you that more smooth sound, but still kind of get you through your stuff a little quicker. I really enjoy it. So that one is Overcast. And there's a ton more, but those are a couple recommendations. If you're sitting there looking at your phone and going like, oh, I use the Google Podcast app. I've used it for years. There's a couple that might help you out. Make sure you get your Nerd Best Friend content when it comes out.
Yeah, good tip there. I missed that news. I didn't hear about that. So, well, I don't use Google Podcasts anyways, but good tip. Listeners, go find another way to subscribe to Nerd Best Friends.
All right. So Nerd Mail, I've been ignoring it, but we have to bring it up.
Okay.
It's the most controversial episode we've ever had. What? The Stephen King episode, because
okay.
We use the word multiverse, and nerds are nerds.
Yeah.
Actually, that doesn't sound, I don't think Annalise knows what a multiverse actually.
All right. Okay, nerds, listen. You called me out.
Here we go.
I'm going to correct it.
Say your truth, queen. Pop
the
off.
problem with the Stephen King multiverse is that I am not versed in the Dark Tower where the multiverse exists. And I thought we said so in the episode that there's this whole thing with the Dark Tower that there is actually a multiverse, but I don't know
it's in an alternate universe.
Yes, I don't know it because I haven't read the Dark Tower. So we focused on the universe. Nerds, listen more critically.
I will. Listen, if you're scrolling through, you're like, ooh, a multiverse episode? I love multiverses. Spock with a goatee? Come on, give it to me. Then I can see how you might be disappointed. So.
Yes, yeah.
Next
we could have
season,
named it something better.
Next season, we will do a proper multiverse episode. I will nerd-splain multiverse to all of our listeners. And we will share some of our favorite multiverse stories. It's worth it. It's content. So we will say, yes, nerds, we heard you.
We'll take the direction, listeners and nerds. We will take the direction in being more explicit.
I thought you were going to say, we'll take the feedback with the constructive tone that we're sure it was meant to convey.
No, I was trying to hide the fact that I didn't know about the multiverse, and I just did it. I guess I didn't do it well enough. So we know what multiverses are. Thanks, nerds.
Love you, nerds.
Keep writing in. podcast@ourbestfriends.com.
Lay off my best friend.
I am the biggest Stephen King fan, except when it comes to the Dark Tower. That's what I was trying to protect. Let's go on to the episode, shall we?
Absolutely.
We started our season with nerd travels and talking about going to Las Vegas, something we didn't do while we were in Las Vegas and felt worthy of bringing up. I don't know about you, but it's a new hobby for me is every time I travel is looking for a barcade.
Barcades, gosh, what would you say? 5 years, maybe, the boom of the barcade?
Give or take. I think a little bit longer, but there are evidences of it not working. Remember, we went to a barcade for my 35th birthday. That was like 10 years ago.
Oh, that's true. That was definitely a barcade. Yes.
I mean, that was
a little
built
bit
as
different because they were using consoles instead of arcade machines, right?
Right.
But
they did. You remember they did have arcade machines, but they were by the door, and I remember they had to have them off for some reason, like it was raining, and I don't remember. They had just a little row of it, but you're right. They used consoles more than they did actual arcade,
which was also very cool. But so that was right at the start of it, though.
Yes, that was ahead of its time, so much so that it didn't actually make it. Now, I think if it opened now, it would make it.
I think so too, especially the way things are with like Twitch and watching people play video games and all this kind of stuff. Like you could even bring in different streamers that have popularity from your area. Like that is another way to do a barcade, which again, to Nerdsplain, in case you're new, barcade is a bar that is also an arcade.
Bam, bam.
You see, ladies, mansplaining is short for man explaining.
Wow. I'm keeping that in, by the way.
It's hilarious.
It's something. Yeah, barcades. And it's really funny because, I end my week we have a admin team meeting, and I always do a little check-in at the beginning. Nothing that's like icebreaker, because we both hate those,
yeah.
but definitely like, hey, name one non-work thing you're going to do this week and for yourself, right? Just little check-ins with them at the end of these stressful weeks. And that was the exact check-in on Friday. So my team was saying, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and da, da, da. And I said, well, I'm working this week. And I actually just got back from Hayward, where it was the Science Olympiad state finals that my team qualified for. So I went to check it out with them. So I was like, well, I'm working, but it's cool to be around kids, because when you're the principal, you are not around kids a lot. So any opportunities that I can get to go see kids doing cool stuff, I'm going to do. But one thing I've started to do is everywhere I travel, when I have time on my own, I'm off the clock, and the kids all left Saturday night and I stayed in the hotel, look up a local barcade and go play some games, maybe have some dinner, have a drink, have some fun. Yeah. So everywhere I go now, it is a mission of mine to find a barcade.
And are you pretty successful? Like, does every city have a barcade within
pretty nearly
10 miles or so?
Hayward was the first that didn't, but it's east of the Bay Area. It's a little south of Oakland. And I think what I'm gathering is that this little city, or it's not little, but this city is really relying on the fact that you are 15 minutes from Oakland, where there are all these things, or, 25 minutes over the Bay to San Francisco, where all these things are. Because when I looked at Barcade, it was saying some in San Francisco. And I'm like, I'm not going to drive 30 miles.
And the parking and the bridge. And
exactly. So Hayward was the first that didn't, but pretty much everywhere else I've been has had something. And there's one that you and I both visited this calendar year, this school year.
Right.
In Sacramento.
And that is the coin op in Sacramento, which was a huge one. Did we also go to the one in San Luis Obispo this year?
We went to that one before I moved. Yeah, we did that,
so that was
almost a year
season.
ago now. We went up there and had a couple drinks, had some snacks. And then if you remember, that's where we found that Foo Fighters machine.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And then they were starting a pinball tournament. We're like, it's Sunday, we got to go home. Or it was like a Wednesday or something random.
Yeah, it was a middle of the week, like weird situation.
Yeah,
so
we did
that was
one
cool
together.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
there was a really big one in Vegas that I thought maybe if we needed a Saturday night thing after we'd played D&D, but I like what we did instead, because it meant not getting an Uber, not worrying about who was going to drive. We just stayed where we were, and we went bowling instead. But there's a big one. There's two things. Like, we need a nerd trip to Vegas, because they have the Pinball Hall of Fame.
I do want to go to the Pinball Hall of Fame.
And this gigantic barcade I have a website for what it is. I don't remember what it's called, but man, it's a must have. But the barcades are more and more common in different cities. I know you just went on a trip. Did you find any?
No, but we were a little out of the way on our trip, so didn't have a chance to look. It's a pretty small town that we were in. But what an evolution of the arcade, right? That we remember when we were kids, which was a place for kids. It was a Chuck E. Cheese's,
right? Or Dave and Buster's.
Well, Dave and Buster's also serves alcohol, right?
Yes.
Like, that's a bar and an arcade.
In fact, Dave and Buster's turns 21 plus after like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So it's totally barcade worthy.
Gotcha. So they straddle the line between both, right? It's a restaurant and an arcade during most of the day, and then it switches over to a barcade. Yep. Smart. And that's definitely an example of a very successful barcade. That's a huge chain everywhere.
There was another chain. We took kids to it in Vegas. It started with a G. It's not Game Shop. And the chain is closed, but it was popular for a long time, at least here on the west side of the state, before Dave and Buster's became a thing around here. Oh, this is really going to bug me.
Player One video game bar?
No, that's the one I'm talking about. That's in Vegas right now.
Oh.
See, now my partner claims she's not a nerd. It was called GameWorks.
Oh.
Do you remember GameWorks? It was a chain.
GameWorks powers down all its locations, including Vegas's town square for good. 2022. Yep. Oh,
yep. And then Dave and Buster's swooped in there.
Bummer.
There was a few locations across the country, and then the whole company went down. But GameWorks used to be one, and it was the same kind of idea of Dave and Buster's. It was.
Oh my gosh, I've never been to a GamesWorks, but what I'm seeing here that they have that is different than a Dave and Buster's or any other barcade that I ever went to is they have an esports arena built into the shop. Oh, that's so cool.
And a rock wall. They had a rock wall.
Oh, really?
Yes. So GameWorks was really fun. When I would take kids on trips, we'd either have a group dinner at the Hard Rock Cafe because they do really good with big groups of kids, or GameWorks, or both if the city had both. Like it was always a really good stop because it'd be like $20 a kid and they'd get unlimited pizza and drinks. And then they'd get a little like 1 hour card to just play. Wow. Just unlimited for an hour. So that was always a stop. But for me, that was kind of the start of the Barcade thing, then Dave and Buster's. And now I'm super glad to see that it is more and more common everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it turns out all these machines are still around, and a lot of the ones I go into, they're very vintage. They're classic machines. You know, on one hand, I suppose you could think of like, well, they weren't super sophisticated, right? So it's not a big deal to repair and replace a lot of the electronics that were built into these things. But at the same time, it's like, well, they weren't built to last, right?
No, they were not
built to be like, oh, this is this year's offering from whatever company, and send it out en masse as fast as they could in the popularity of the arcades in the 80s. And for some of these things to still be around 40 years later is very impressive, and speaks to the nerds that are the custodians of these things, take care of them and repair them and keep them up.
It's a whole industry for pinball repair and these machine repair. It's pretty great. But I really love that. There was a Barcade, by the way, near Hayward. Would have been about 15 miles away. But it was more of they had a cover band. They had a Guns N' Roses cover band on Saturday night. Of course they did. The tickets were like $25. I'm like, I just want to go play a couple of games and like have a snack. So I didn't go. But
a little too crowded.
Some of the places have that. Well, yeah, I mean, okay, we're of age. It's fine. I have to start carrying my earplugs with me because I care about my hearing too much now. And I always did, but I don't want to just go to a Guns N' Roses cover band without having something for my ears. And I have custom ones.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I will share that I have a coworker who is a DJ, and to support my work friend, I went to go watch him DJ at a local bar on Friday night, and I think I had ringing in my ears tinnitus all day Saturday, and I was like,
yep,
I think I messed up.
Yep, I take them to movie theaters now too. I do. Well, the ones I have are custom to my ears, but they're not just earplugs. They have a little filter inside. They're actually made for musicians and like band directors. So you can change the filter depending on how much of the decibels you want to filter. So I have it on the lowest filter, and I take them to like movie theaters, and I just have to start carrying them around with me in my work bag probably. Because if I had them, I might have went and listened to a couple of songs.
I don't know, but I think the AirPod Pros that like seal in your ear with the noise canceling, I think they have accessibility feature for just that kind of thing.
They probably do, but those are the ones that don't fit my ears, right? I have to wear the ones with the older style, the smooth instead of the rubber tip. I would love to get a pair of those because of the noise canceling, and now the newest ones have like the beeping feature in case wherever you lose them, right? Like that. I don't have those two pieces because I have the newest model of the other form.
I preferred those as well. They fit my ears perfectly. I've just had to get used to the rubber nibbed ones because I like the noise canceling so much.
Because nib high football rules. Got him.
Can't argue with that.
What makes Barcades fun? Why do you like to go to them, Rob?
Well, I like to go to them because I like playing video games and I like to drink. But more than that is different than just doing it at home, right? Or like a Dave and Buster's where it's like, oh, we might have lunch and I'll have a beer, but now I'm going to go over to the video game side kind of thing, right? It's a bar. So I don't love bars. We've talked exclusively of why I like craft breweries, and specifically because it has kind of a different, more outdoors, picnicky vibe as opposed to a bar. But if I were going to say like what's cool about a bar, it's like the people watching. It's the different world that exists late at night in a dark bar, right? And like the things that you see and the interesting characters that are out there. It is the grossness. But it's also just buck wild silliness, right? So
yes.
You know, it's that idea of like, ooh, I'm out too late. Nothing good is going to come of this. And sure enough, you're going to have some kind of adventure when you're out at the bars. So it's that, but then it's also, that is cut by the nerdiness level of the crowd that you're going to get at a barcade,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's usually if the younger crowd there is usually a little nerdy. They're into things like retro video games and pinball, which is interesting. Or it's old timers like us, right? And that's something that we could talk about later with the ideas of these barcades is they're in their heyday right now because Gen X is looking for that nostalgia of the arcades that they remember when they were kids and the adult experience of like, I don't actually want to be around kids.
Well, we have the disposable income. We're at that age where, we're going to go on a week-long trip somewhere and we want to do things that we enjoy. And this is the
I can afford to go buy drinks at a bar and also I can afford to dump 2 rolls of quarters into machines.
Yes. And as the latchkey generation, we're also used to just being able to entertain ourselves. So the overhead, like you don't, as a barcade, don't have to work as hard at entertaining the people who are there because they've got all the games. You just have to make sure they're running and the quarters are flowing like the beer's flowing.
Right. Your work is done when the barcade is closed, not when it's there and you have to like be booking people to come in and you got to make sure that the music act is there, that you have the right package for the right sports game and those kinds of things. Yeah.
Yep. It's good stuff. I also know that I've just never been really comfortable in the bar scene. Like when we were in our 20s, and hanging out, we'd go to places like Sharky's or sports bars. And you have fun with the people you are with, but there's always just been I don't know, I want to say sleazy vibe. I don't know, just gross vibe to some of these bars. It's especially ones where it's, singles trying to pick up on each other, which is fine. And there's a place for that. And I've just never really liked that atmosphere. Not even LGBTQ bars. Just loud music and it's not really connecting with people and people get drunk and stupid and it just was never really my scene. And the vibe of a barcade, I've gone to plenty by myself. When I went to the Coin Op in Sacramento, I was on a work trip and there was a big gala that I didn't buy a $120 ticket to. So I just walked because I was around the corner from the Coin Op. I looked up Barcade and it came up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 2 blocks away. I walked there and it wasn't weird to be by myself. It wasn't, I don't know. The vibe is just so different. And I've always appreciated that.
I feel the same way. To me, it's always this kind of sense of unease or like unsafety in bars late at night. And I think some people thrive on that. They like that little bit of like, oh, it's like something dangerous is about to happen. Where I don't really. I'm like, you know what? I'm always looking around because somebody's going to get assolted or somebody's going to get in a fight or something's going to go down. Like, or, somebody's getting 86 by a gang member in the back alley. Like, there's always just this sense of unease that goes around with it. And I will say, probably a story not for the podcast, but I just mentioned on Friday night, I did go out to a bar to watch my DJ friend and I broke my rule, which is usually, as an old man, I'm like, I need to be in by 9. Nothing good ever happens after 9. But I stayed at this bar till 10. And sure enough, around 9:25, stuff started going down.
Oh, man.
I got to get the hell out of here.
I don't know why I stayed. And I want to throw out to our younger listeners, not at all disparaging those of you who enjoy those atmospheres, love the drama, or that's where you go to try to find your dates. Like, no offense, have at it. That's fun for you. I've just appreciated the fact that these arcades have grown in popularity because I would have gone to them in our 20s, even with older video games at the time. Like it would have been a thing for me then. So I really, really love that they're around now. I have to go back to finish my story. I would mention to my team, I'm like, but don't worry, because at the end of the Science Olympiad, I'm going to find a barcade. And they were like, a what?
Oh, good.
I said a barcade, and they're like, a bar arcade. I'm like, yeah, a barcade. And I've never thought about it before. And I went on this tangent about like all the different ones I've been to. And then one of the APs goes, yeah, there was one in Sacramento. And I'm like, you mean the Coin Op? And they were like, you even know the name.
Oh, well, then I'm so glad we're doing this episode because not everybody is doing this. That really is the best part of the podcast, is if we can like bring new joys and experiences to people that maybe you didn't know it was exist. Go ahead, Google barcades near you. Open your world.
You're going to have such a good time. You're never going to look back. I'm telling you.
All right. So when you hit the barcade, what games are the must have? Like what's gotta be at the barcade? Both games and the bar side.
My normal thing is I will go to the bar first.
Okay.
And I'm going to see what they have on tap, what snacks they have, their prices on their food and drink, because that's going to determine whether I'm like, just get me a quick drink, play a couple games and bail. Or if it's
Right.
like, I'm going to have a drink and play some games, get a little hungry and stay for some
And like
snacks
eat
or
here,
some
right?
food, and then maybe have another drink. And like, for me, it's the bar first. Right. We're
Okay.
looking at a place that doesn't have a great selection of drinks that I like, or their only food is like, hey, we'll put in this microwave pizza for you. Yeah, I'll play
That
some
is the
games.
one thing I was
Yeah.
gonna mention of mine too. Is like, if all you have is gross, greasy pizza, I'm not into your
No,
party.
I'll throw $10 of quarters in, but I'm gonna have one drink and then
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
I'm never gonna eat that pizza. I'm
Yeah.
never gonna eat that
Yeah.
Barcade pizza.
Exactly. The first place I go is there. Second thing for me is the ambiance, right? Like not the vibe of the place, but the decorations. Are these people who know what I know about the know of all these games that are floating around?
It's got to have a 80s arcade feel. Is that what you're saying? Like it has to be.
It could be anything. Like the coin op in Sacramento had great murals on the outside wall and inside wall. The place in San Luis Obispo had all of that memorabilia high up that we were tripping out over. And they had that giant mural of every 80s reference you could possibly imagine. I've been to some, or the one in Vegas that we went to for my 35th birthday. They didn't have a special decor, but they had those screens of people playing consoles all over the bar. So you could stand there at the bar and you're looking up, and instead of watching whatever's on television, you're watching someone playing their game. Right.
So, but yeah, that was very bar first. Like that could have been any bar. If the TVs had just been playing, March Madness, like exactly.
So that's what I mean. Number 2, the ambience, like what's going on around me? Is this place decorated to keep my interest? And then I will look at the games.
Gotcha.
And then for the games, my hope is there would be a lot of pinball.
Right.
I will try every pinball game that is working. And then secondly, it just depends on the games that are there. I don't go looking for any specific one. I do go looking for the Funhouse pinball machine. That's my favorite pinball machine ever. It's got a big marionette doll head. It's great. And he like falls asleep when the funhouse closes. And if you can get a ball in his mouth, you get multi-ball. Like it's my favorite game. It's Sounds not awful. Scary, but it's creepy. When it comes to video games, I'll play that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game. I'll play NFL Blitz, even just like Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, Off-Road, Paperboy. Like I'll play anything that's there that reminds me of games we played in our youth. Yeah. What do you look for?
I'm very similar. Like the first place I'm going to go is the bar, right? Cause I'm not going to walk around looking at games if I don't have a beer in my hand. So I'm looking for that craft beer. If you've got like one good one that I know I'm going to want to drink, fine. But if you've got 2 or 3, so I know I'm not going to just like have the same beer twice in a row. Brilliant.
You're there for a bit. Yep.
And then I'm pretty easy at a bar. Beer and French fries. I'm good to go. A loaded tater tots. Oh, you got
even
me.
Better.
But that's the thing. It's like, they got to be good. Like if I see somebody coming out with the fries and they're just like, Ore-Ida frozen fries from the grocery store, heat up in the microwave. I'm like, you didn't do it right. So it's got to have a couple different good craft beers and some good French fries, and I'm good. And then as far as the video games, I look for the same things in any arcade that I go to. Is there a variety of pinball games or a pinball game that looks fun? Is there driving games, and are they working? Because those seem to be broken most of the time.
Yeah.
Are there games that have like a big plastic machine gun sticking out of them? I like those too. And yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. I love the shooter games. I have to be careful with them because that first person thing. Not all those shooter games is first person, or the screen's so big for some reason it doesn't make me nauseous.
Well, because they're static. I think what's cool about the arcade shooters is it takes you. You can't move the screen. Like if you're playing a Call of Duty, your left thumb is moving the head all around and your right thumb is moving the gun all around. So it's all wacky dizziness. With the arcade, it's just static. Like it'll just stay on the same screen while you have to destroy the flood of monsters coming. And then it'll be like, turn the corner and just, and then freeze again for a while.
You're right. Yeah. That must be what it is. Man, that makes me want to go play more now. We mentioned the maintaining of vintage machines, but I think one thing that the Barcades offer that is maybe a little bit different than your typical bar is that there's often some sort of gaming going. There might be a trivia night. There might be a pinball tournament that's like, here, pay $5 and we're going to have this tournament and someone gets a little 3D printed trophy for the month of April, right? And that seems to be pretty unique to Barcades. Have you seen things along those lines?
Well, trivia for sure. Bar trivia is on the rise, and it's very popular. And
Yes.
I always think, I know that bar trivia has existed forever, but I think there were some new platforms and things that were come up with during like those COVID times where people were staying at home more,
Yeah.
and you could buy these packages of like Jackbox and trivia games and those kinds of things that have made it really easy to just like come in, take over the TVs and run a trivia game with a lot of electronic help, right? Like sometimes we talk about how fun it is to run board games with an app as somebody who can kind of keep track of all the little rules and points and stuff. I think that's made it a lot easier. But as far as the competition things and that idea of like coming back every month, like a pinball tournament or a Pac-Man tournament or whatever it is. Yeah, that's unique. Nobody else really has.
Right.
They could, like I've gone to breweries and stuff. It's like, come on Saturday. It's our April rock, paper, scissors competition or things like that. But it's like, that's not the same. That's not a video game, right? We all know what it is to like try to get a high score in a video game.
Yes. A non-barcade bar may have trivia, but I've also noticed at Barcades, it tends to be more nerd trivia, right? Like it's more this, here's a package about Lord of the Rings. Here's a package about Harry Potter. All of these questions are about pop culture, which is really big for that arcade, the arcade movement, if you will, is that it's a lot of pop culture reference.
That's true. And that is a get. Like that keeps your clientele coming in, right? If like, oh, this Saturday is Back to the Future trivia night. It's like, oh, that sounds fun. Let's go. Rather than, your regular bar trivia where it's like, well, be sure you bring a sports guy and be sure you bring a history guy.
A history guy and a science guy.
And a political scientist guy and like that kind of thing. Cause it could be anything and it's probably hard. You're right. Yeah. Those theme nights make it just more fun.
Right. What about some memorable barcade moments?
Well, certainly one of my most recent barcade moments was when I went to that Sacramento, the coin op in Sacramento. Yes. And that one was memorable because I was there. It was a vendor party at a conference that I was going to. So everything there was covered. If you got a ticket because you were a customer of this certain vendor, everything was covered, including the drinks and alcohol.
Oh my gosh.
Which I didn't really realize that. I kind of thought, I rolled up with my small crew of people we had gone to this convention with, and we figured it was like, well, we have the ticket so we get in the door and it'll be kind of, it'll be private.
Buy a drink. Yeah.
And we had dared think, we're like, what if like all the games are just like on free play? Wouldn't that be cool? We're like, they're not going to do that. Whatever. And we get there. And so I'm like, all right, you guys, the line was long at the bar. So I'm like, I'll go grab us a couple beers and I'll be right back. And so I'm standing in line. I'm kind of looking over my shoulder at this person playing games. And I'm like, I don't see any quarters. And I kind of look over at the change machine because I'm like, well, if the line at the bar is this long, the line at the change machine is going to be long too. I look over the change machine. There's nobody there. And I'm like,
oh boy.
I think the games are free. And so I'm sitting there at the bar, standing in line at the bar, and I see like the person ahead of me doesn't pay. I'm like, they probably have a tab open. And the next person doesn't pay. And I'm like, they probably have a tab open. And the next person doesn't pay. And I look across the bar at my friend who I had gone with, my coworker I had gone with, who is a very tall individual. So you can spot him in the crowd because he's so tall. And he just looks over at me and my eyes all big look over at him. And he kind of does that like circle with the finger motion and just mouths to me, it's all covered. And both of our eyes were so cartoonish. We knew like, oh, this is it. We are going to be here for the next 3 hours.
We are going to close this bar.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So that moment was super fun.
Did you play games like Matt?
We played everything. We played everything. We took full advantage of that bar. It was out of control fun, but as fun as it was and as cool of an experience it was to just like be in a barcade running around like supermarket sweepstakes, that moment of realization of like the two of us looking at each other from across the bar and just being like, our childhood dreams come true. It's got to be the biggest one for me.
That's amazing.
Tell me about yours.
If I went with most recent, last month I was in Roseville and they had a Dave & Buster's. And I haven't been to Dave & Buster's since 2019. I can say with certainty 2019 because they opened one in Toledo when I was living there in Ohio. So I went. They used to have these great lunch specials where for like $20, you got food off of this menu, a burger or a sandwich or a salad. And then you got like $10 in gameplay or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but on a college budget while I was getting my doctorate, once a week, if not more. I would go to get a lunch special, save half my sandwich for dinner and then play a bunch of games. I had some ridiculous amount of points on that card. And then when I moved back home, Santa Barbara doesn't have a Dave & Buster's. The closest one is Thousand Oaks. I had not gone to the one in Thousand Oaks. And then, I'm in Roseville and there was one just down the street from my hotel and I was so excited. And it was fun. I miss being able to go to Dave & Buster's like that, but they got rid of those like eat and play specials. So it was really more expensive than I wanted to spend, but it was fun to go play. And they always have skee ball. Skee ball's like my favorite game ever. And that's what's fun about Dave & Buster's. They have the video games, but they also have the like fair kind of games like skee ball, like shoot this thing through this thing
and take them to
the
counter. Yeah.
So that was fun. That was the most recent because I made sure to go after the like 9 o'clock hour when there were no kids around and stuff like that. So, and some people just go because it's bar and it's food and they're like it's a sports bar on one end and then all the games are on one. Like Dave & Buster's is really interesting. The clientele that it
That's true. I mean, like I have watched playoff games at a Dave & Buster's and not even been like, oh yeah, I'll go play some video games. And been like, nah, I'm not really going to go play those video games.
It's halftime. Let me go play some games. And then, game started again.
Right. Yeah. Actually, that's perfect. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But that would be the most recent. But I will say most memorable, really, I keep coming back. And I know we've talked about it before on the podcast, but I keep coming back to my 35th birthday when we had table service, which was a booth with 2 gaming consoles and 2 big screen TVs and bottle service and just having so much fun. We were there for hours.
Oh, yeah.
It turned into a nightclub. We were there for so long.
I had blisters on my fingers for real. No joke.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we broke glasses playing Wii. I don't know if you remember that. The poor person that was tending our booth had to like come sweep up glass because we were like going crazy with the Wii remote. And then we played Injustice. And that was just a lot of fun. I think that's probably one of my most memorable, but realistically, all of them are great. I have not been to one that I went, it was okay. Right. There's been some where I didn't spend a lot of time because they didn't have food or they didn't have anything that really interested me in the food drink realm, but I'll play some games and maybe buy a drink for them because I know that's really where they make their money, right?
Of course.
Like even a non-alcoholic drink, when I was drinking soda, I'll get a soda because they're going to charge me $5 for a soda that cost them 50 cents, tip the bartender, play some games and go. I don't know that I've ever had a bad experience at a barcade.
I am wondering if we're looking at barcades and we're looking at where we're at right now. Have you ever been to, or do you know of that kind of overlap? Just thinking from the picture I saw earlier between esports and a restaurant or sports bar type situation. Because I don't, but it seems like a no-brainer.
You're
going to have like an esports bar, right? Where it's a sports bar, but there's esports either going on or you're watching the big streams of like whatever the big weekend is going to be this weekend. And also there's a couple arcade games in there for you. Like, I wonder if there's esports events that go on at these bars.
I would imagine that if that's going to be a thing, I can see it being in Vegas, even in their sport books. If esports grows in popularity, Vegas will play whatever it is that's going to bring people into seats to spend money, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing. I think we're looking at esports gaining in popularity so much so now that it might become a thing. But other than GameWorks, I don't think I've ever seen it anywhere.
Gotcha. I mean, the popularity of Twitch and video game streaming is so high right now. But I wonder, maybe it's just really high in a demographic that is so young that they're not going to bars and they don't have that disposable income to do.
And maybe we'll see it in like 10 years from now.
Right. I mean, I wonder, because like we were talking about earlier, like the barcade exists because of all of us like 45 to 55-year-old people who are going to these barcades for the nostalgia and the alcohol. But yeah, maybe that evolves 20 years from now when it's all these, all the Zoomers are looking for that nostalgia kick.
And would they want to, though? That's the other thing. So like, imagine if you're going into a place where someone's on their Discord or on their Twitch, you no longer have the individuals logged in to watch you. So your watching numbers are down. And that also means people aren't a click away from sending you $1 or $5 or $3. So that might have a little bit to do with it, but that doesn't hit the esports as much. So I really think you're on the mark, and maybe 15, 20 years from now, we're going to see esports live in some of these places. That would be really interesting to see.
Right, because right now their platforms are all online, which makes sense because it's an online type thing. But earlier, towards in the spring, it's like everywhere you go, it's March Madness games. And whether it's, schools nobody in our area has ever heard of, or, male or female, like people are watching those games and getting excited and, cheering to the TV, like, go UConn,
whatever team.
Ladies, whatever. Like, I don't know, but it's there. There's something there.
Hey, well, let me interrupt our stream of thought here to say women's basketball, NC2A women's basketball is hitting this sweet spot right now that they're actually gaining more attention publicly than the men's game. And we can talk a whole episode about why, but as we speak right now, the women's championship was just won, it looks like, by South Carolina. I have it on in the background just because it's the final game, but women's basketball right now is doing so well and that's why you're seeing this. It doesn't matter what team it is. Like, people are flocking to these games because they're so good. To flip that back to the subject, I think we could see that happening in esports as well. And places holding competitions even. Well,
for that episode, you should bring on a special guest because Rob doesn't know anything about basketball.
Will do. Well, look,
I might know less about basketball than I do Stephen King.
You just named one of the teams that's was in the women's Final Four, and you did that because it's around you enough because people.
You're right. It's in the zeitgeist. You're absolutely right.
So that tells you, like, the fact that
I think they got beat by Iowa.
They did. And Iowa just lost to South Carolina.
I'm a regular sports ball guy.
Look at it. You know everything there is to know about women's basketball now.
You know what? Turns out I'm the expert. Never mind. Let's do this episode tomorrow. I'm a women's college basketball expert. Who just won the championship again?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. There's a South Carolina?
The other SC, as we like to say.
I thought West Carolina had a shot, but I guess the South will rise again.
North Carolina women's or men's basketball hasn't really been all that great in local years. Speaking of Barcades.
Right. Your number one stop for women's collegiate basketball.
It should be. Why aren't we at a Barcade right now that's playing the game and we're playing video games? Like, it's just
we live
wrong.
1,000 miles away from each other.
It's not that much. Oh, it's pretty close, actually. What's our future with Barcades? We have a Nerd Travels to do this summer, don't we?
Yeah. Is it going to be Vegas?
I mean, I'd like to do Vegas maybe in the winter instead, but that's always hard to do with winter break, but it might have to be summer.
If anyone could figure out a way that we could get to a couple Barcades without having to be in like the July or August heat and just stay air conditioned the entire way through town, it would be you and Sarah.
Yeah, or I mean, you're air conditioned as long as you just go from car to place very quickly. We'll figure that out. But definitely, I think there's now 3 places.
Oh my gosh.
In Vegas that exist for Barcade action.
And
that's not including the Dave and Buster's.
We can skip that. They got those everywhere. I would very much be interested though in going to into one of those kind of like high end places like you were mentioning at your birthday, which was just such a sleek, cool bar where you get the corner booth and the bottle service and console games. So like, I haven't been to an experience like that since then. And it's very enticing to me. I would do that again 100%.
I would pay for bottle service at a place like that again, without a doubt. And especially now having done it once, because we really didn't know what to expect. The place was really new when I called, and they were so new that I'm like, hey, I'm a local, but my friends are coming in from California and it's my 35th birthday. And they gave us a deal. Like they gave me a percentage off the bottle service, which can be hundreds and hundreds of dollars at some of these places. I want to say it was under $200 for that booth with all that alcohol. Kidding. And the person like coming in and mixing our drinks and the 2 consoles and the booth the entire night. And like I said, we were there for like 4 hours.
We definitely
hours.
Overstayed.
Yeah, but they didn't care because we were VIPs that night. So I would pay for that experience again in a heartbeat. We'll find it.
As would I. But I don't know about the future of arcades. I don't know that in 10 years from now, 20 years from now, if these exist. I don't know that 20 years from now, anybody's going to really remember the arcade experience or care about the arcade experience enough to pay premium prices for a barcade experience.
You're right. It
I
might
just
turn
don't
to
know.
more consoles and stuff like that.
If anything, so strike while the iron is hot. But if I'm looking at, us being honestly on the younger side of people who remember those arcades in the 80s, and we're talking about these folks that are running these barcades and keeping those machines up to date and having those collections, like how old are they going to be in 20 years? 70, 75? Like are they going to be able to pass it down? I don't know.
How amazing it is that those folks are younger than us, though, right? We're on the very tip of Gen X.
Right.
Most people say Gen X is 1980. So we're right on the cusp of it. And the folks who are running these bars are either our age or younger because they love the retro idea of it. Like the people in that Sacramento coin op that I met were maybe 10 to 15 years younger than us. They were
the bartenders
30s.
Were younger than us for sure, but usually when I go, I feel like the owners are, our age or older, but you're saying maybe not.
There's some places where that's not the case because it's retro and they love it. So I think there's going to be a niche for that for a long time, especially the more we move away from the 80s. But I think you hit it on the head earlier by saying this technology was not built to last forever. So either people have to rewrite the code for these games and put them in newer machines, which I don't know that anyone would do that, or the machines are just going to be dying out to an extent that there's just not going to be enough around the country for all these barcades. So we really got to hone in on these nerd travels the next 5 years or so, I think.
It all comes down to this. Whatever way you can manipulate me into leaving the safety of my nerd room.
Yes.
I
thought you were going to say family, so I was ready to say just bring them with you.
No.
But
my safety and security of my nerd room where nothing ever changes. And
sometimes
you gotta get out there
necessary.
And see the world.
we gotta go to these nerd bars. We gotta go give them some money while there's money to give to appreciate the work that they are doing.
All right. You're not wrong. So besides Vegas, where are we meeting up this summer? Since this is our season finale, right?
Oh, no, we have one more episode next week.
So the season's almost done.
This is the last
We're taking our summer break.
Content. Yeah. Let's get to that after the break. Starting with you, Rob, what's the nerdiest thing you did this week?
All right. So the nerdiest thing I did this week was my local town. They do this thing with the local newspaper, whatever. I'm sure tons of cities do this where they have this week is burrito week. And then all the local restaurants that serve burritos will agree that they'll be like, we're going to have $6 burritos for this week only. And they'll do a little newspaper article of come get this weird burrito. Come get this weird burrito. It's pizza week. It's craft beer week. Well, recently it was Burger Week. Santa Barbara, and so there were a ton of different burgers available and featured in this article. And the thing was, it's everything's $10, right? So no matter where you go, you're going to get this burger fries combo kind of thing, whatever, for $10. So it's kind of fun and entices you to go to local restaurants and that kind of thing. But we nerd out about Burger Week where I work. So Burger Week is announced. The article comes out. We analyze the article and put all of the restaurants and offerings on a spreadsheet. Also included on that spreadsheet is how many miles away from work it is so that we know which ones are in walking distance and which ones are not.
Do you ask ChatGPT for its opinion?
No. ChatGPT can't taste a burger. Are you kidding me?
That's
ridiculous.
They can it grab all of the reviews and give you a ranking based on all the internet? Come on, you didn't ChatGPT that at some form?
No, didn't ChatGPT this because
Dang, okay.
I mean, I don't want to know which are the best burger places.
Okay.
I want to find out.
All right. So your spreadsheet has distance.
So it's got the restaurant, it's got the burger, and some places we also put the hours because some places are well, we're only offering this deal between a certain time of day or
12
something.
to 3.
Right. And some of them were like specifically like a breakfast burger or, the burrito week did this a lot. Like, oh, this place is
Oh, it's
having
a breakfast burrito.
So starting
Sure.
at 7, ending at 10 or something like that. So we had to put that in there, like when we could get it. Then the distance from work, because this was a project we were going to do and have a burger for lunch every week. So that was fun as well. And then we have a ranking. So everyone who participates in this case, Burger Week, you use the emojis and like how many out of 5 cheeseburger emojis was each one. So we would have a ranking of like, oh, Rob thought this was a 3 cheeseburger out of 5 cheeseburger emoji, but this person said it was only 2 out of cheeseburger. So we really nerded out hard about Burger Week, and we had done it before for Burrito Week. Restaurant Week is coming up. That's a fun one that my wife and I like to do because you get some amazing 5-course meals in this town during Restaurant Week. Craft Beer Week is one they do during the summer. I would say if your city does this kind of thing, it's a great idea to like get you out and spending money at local places, but also you could really nerd out about it, have some fun with your friends and family and coworkers.
So you also gamified it.
100%. Yes.
We
We even talked about, so Burger Week happened in March. I don't think this episode might come out at the end of
End of
March
April.
or maybe April. Okay. So this was back in March. So we even talked about like, we had to have a serious discussion with the group after Burrito Week. We're like, listen, Burger Week is coming in March. That means it is Fiber February. You got to eat clean because these arteries,
Get your gut ready.
they're going to be clogged for reals.
Oh boy, were you sick of burgers by the end of the week?
Yep. Don't need to have another burger. I have not had a burger
Yeah.
since.
That's the only downside, huh? Didn't have burritos for a month after.
Yeah. But I know where to get the good ones, right? Like
All right.
now I know, like, oh man, I know where to get a smash burger because
Nice. Which one was the winner for you?
I'd have to look for sure, but the offering from Mesa Burger, the smash burger at Mesa Burger was really kicking.
Okay.
And then there was a burger at Validation Ale Company where they mixed pieces like bacon bits into the meat and made a smash burger there. So it was like extra salty and good. That might have been the best one.
Nice.
It was real good.
Nice.
There was an interesting one. I'll tell you what the worst one was as well. Even though it seemed like a interesting idea, it was at something Reds. It's a Mexican place on State Street, but they participated in Burger Week and they did a birria burrito. A birria burger. So it was a burger, but it had birria in it and it came with the dipping sauce and everything. And it was like, what? That's going to be amazing. It was the worst one. It fell apart. It was messy. It was like, this tastes like we took a perfectly good burrito and made it worse.
Yeah.
So that one was the worst one on our list, but
yeah. Birria tacos by themselves is very fall aparty, goopy. To put that on a bun,
it all soaked.
It was worth a try.
It was worth a try. I tell you what their mistake was, and I'm not a big fan of mayonnaise, but both of those buns needed like a very thick membrane of mayo between the birria so it wouldn't just turn the bun into a sponge of grease.
Yuck.
Anyway, what's the nerdiest thing you did this week?
I have a couple of things. I'm going to say first, I talked about it during the Stephen King episode maybe, but I went and got myself the Castle Rock cookbook, which has a foreword by Stephen King and their recipes mostly out of Maine because a lot, right? We talked about the universe, not the multiverse, but the universe had a lot in Maine around Bangor where Stephen King lives. It's awesome. We're getting ready to, I'll post some pictures when we make a couple of the recipes in it, but I'm excited.
What are you cooking? What do you got coming up?
I'm not going to spoil it yet because I'm picking one thing and Sarah's picking one thing and I haven't picked my thing yet, but she has. Okay. So I will share it when we get to that. The second thing that might be even more nerdy, it is even more nerdy than that. I found out about a con that hasn't been around. And I think they did it once pre-pandemic and then the pandemic happened and it hasn't happened yet. It's called the Hellmouth Con.
Shut up.
And it's in Torrance at Torrance High School where they filmed Buffy.
No.
So far, they have Julie Benz, who played Darla. And they have Juliet Landau, who played Drusilla, signed up to be at Hellmouth Con. I bought 2 tickets. It's in June.
You're missing high school graduation so you can go to Torrance, California.
Thankfully, it is a week after school gets out.
Oh,
and thankfully,
so
it's during my vacation days. We're going to Hellmouth Con! And I've even look, you know me, and we've talked about cosplay. And neither of us are really like out there cosplayers. I've been thinking about what I could dress up at.
Oh my gosh.
how to cosplay.
Oh,
This is going to be a thing, right?
Oh,
I think I could do a good Giles.
I was going to say Fiesta. It has to be Fiesta Giles.
Oh my God, it's got to be Fiesta Giles.
It's got to be Fiesta Giles. How can it be anything but Fiesta Giles? Look at the action figure. Those are
I'm looking at it right now.
Things that you could purchase.
Wow.
And the little round wire glasses. Slick your hair back. You don't even need to worry about your hair because you'll be wearing a sombrero.
Because I'll be wearing a sombrero. Yeah, you are absolutely right. But although Fiesta Giles also carries a chainsaw, so that might be...
Well, you don't have to do the chainsaw part.
Well, I mean, it's Fiesta Giles. I'm just saying, I thought about Giles. I thought I could also wear like baggy 90s clothes and dress like Xander because I have the short hair and everything.
Ooh, you could pull off a Xander too, but it's got to be Fiesta Giles.
Fiesta Giles is a good call.
I would say plan A, Fiesta Giles, plan B, Xander.
The only other thing, because I'm short, I thought about the gentleman and dressing up as like the crazy guys on the ground in the straight jackets.
Oh my God. Now that's something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty cool.
That one might be hard to do though. That costume's kind of funky, but yeah, we'll see. And then I might not cosplay. I mean,
it depends on how the cosplays work. Is it just go in cosplay or is there a specific like cosplay parade? Because if it's a parade, you can get away with being in a straight jacket or carrying around a plastic chainsaw from the Spirit Halloween store. But if it's just like, hey, dress up, but you're also going to have to do the con, you're going to want to keep your hands free. You could skip the chainsaw because you're going to be carrying bags of merch and posters and autographs and all kinds of stuff. Oh my gosh,
it's going to be so good. You want to go to Hellmouth Con with me?
I mean, kinda.
Yeah, I think you want to go. And I said, Sarah, we're going. And she goes, don't you want to go with someone who is like a fan of the show?
Oh, man.
But I told them, like, that's my vacation time. We're going to be doing stuff anyways. So we'll
sure.
Plan it out.
If that's the case, you can turn it into a whole Southern California trip and go to the beach, have some fun.
That's the plan. That's the plan. You should come to Hellmouth Con with me. You can. Right, I'll dress like a bunny, and you can dress as Fiesta Giles. You don't remember the bunny references?
I remember the bunny references.
Yeah.
All right. Send me the info.
I will.
Maybe we'll get some content out of this after all.
Maybe we'll just, instead of cosplay, we'll do Nerd Best Friends. We'll get new Nerd Best Friend shirts and give out our stickers.
Yeah, we could do that. That's probably the tact I will take. But
I would be okay with that.
Fiesta Giles would be pretty cool.
That is also very true. We'll talk. We'll plan.
What'd you do for your birthday this year, Rob? My nerd best friend took me to Torrance, California.
No, I went to the Hellmouth, bro.
Amazing.
It's gonna be
wow.
Great. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It might be the crappiest con ever in the history of the world. I don't care. We're gonna be surrounded by Buffy
fans. Got celebrities. It's gonna be cool.
Hey,
I am actually
being around
very
other Buffy
interested
fans.
To see what the vendor hall is like at a Buffy con and like what
there's gonna be a vendor hall.
Like weird stuff they've got going on. All right.
And there's a whole thing the night before. Wait, hold on. I'll tell you exactly what that weird thing is.
And I can tell everybody my story about how I hung out with James Marsters, but couldn't wait to get away from him because I had no idea who he was.
At the time you didn't. A melting pot of fandoms, the Hellmouth Con blends education and entertainment across books, comics, TV, movies, technology, steampunk, and more. Activities include the Sunnydale Mall, fan experiences, panels and workshops, photos and autographs with talent, cosplay and trivia contests, meetups, evening events including Friday and Saturday. There's something that said what the Friday thing was, though.
The part about education and workshops has me a little nervous. Is this like a Torrance High School event?
No, it's not. They rent it out. Friday is evening of trivia, and we could skip the karaoke, but it's at a sports lounge, and they're going to do Buffy trivia the night before.
Wow.
Bro. And then Saturday, there's programming, fan experiences, Sunnydale Mall, photo studio, and an after party. Sunnydale's class of 99 25th reunion.
Okay.
It's happening, dude. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. I can't wait. By the way, before we go to the end of the episode, I want to note two things. First of all, this episode airs late April, and late April marks 20 years of two things that happened simultaneously. Okay. One, I want to congratulate you and Maria on 20 years of marriage.
Oh, thank you.
And two, the 20th anniversary of winning a gold medal with the boy band show.
Oh, wow. That was the same year,
That was all at the same time. If you remember, you delayed your honeymoon so that we could go to championships.
That's absolutely true. I do remember that now. You're absolutely right. Wow.
You got married right smack in the middle of that season, 20 years. Congratulations to you and to any of our former students listening. Can't believe we can say that was 20 years ago.
Well, thank you very much. And what a experience it is to know that I peaked 20 years ago.
That's not a peak moment. Come on. Not a peak
but
moment.
what a great year. What a great year for sure.
That is definitely a core memory and something that I will cherish forever in my educational career. It'll be in my top 10 forever.
I love it. Well, thank you very much, Annalise.
Of course.
Appreciate it. Hard to believe we're already at the end of season 3. Next episode, we will recap the season and give hints at our plans for season 4 and beyond. Keep up to date with the Nerd Best Friends podcast by clicking on that subscribe or follow button on your device. We appreciate our fans, especially the ones that share our podcast with others and give us that 5-star rating wherever they listen to our show. We are at Nerd Best Friends on social medias, and you can send us a message through podcast@nerdbestfriends.com. These are the best and easiest ways to grow our nerd family.
We're going to go to some barcades. We're going to Hellmouth Con. It's going to be a great summer.
If you see a couple of fogies wearing Nerd Best Friend t-shirts and secretly sticking Nerd Best Friend stickers up on the bathroom stalls and on the side of the arcade cabinets, that's us. Please say hi.
Come say hi, take pictures. Also, send us the barcades in your area. We would love to see barcades wherever we go.
Yes, recommendations for sure, because our work and our play always takes us on like little travels and stuff, and what a fun thing if we knew about some barcade recommendations.
All right. New episode in 2 weeks, nerds. Stay nerdy.
Thanks for listening.
I was going to ask a question. Oh, not ask a question.